What is up, everybody? Welcome to AK Plays. I'm AK. Let's play.
Damn!
Alright, everybody, so today I'm going to be talking about, could the Division ever be perfect for everyone? Now, the short answer is no. Of course not. Everyone's always going to have something they want changed. But I'm going to elaborate on that very thoroughly and see if there's a way that we could get to where the majority of people really enjoy the game. Because I've seen more and more people saying that they're upset with the game, they're quitting, they're uninstalling. I've even seen about 10% of my friends list that used to play the Division daily, not on the Division. And it's kind of a shame. I mean, this is a great game. I mean, I know it's had its issues. I'm not just talking about the glitches and the other issues, because it's had those too. I'm thinking more of the PvP balancing. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, is what could we do if there was a potential 1.8.4. Now, obviously I know that the developers are probably hard at work on Division 2, getting that polished and ready to go, but there's still a little bit of time. There could be a 1.8.4. Obviously, I have no knowledge of that actually happening, no news or anything like that. I don't have any inside sources, guys. I'm not special like that. But there is time, and you'd think that it is plausible, right? So if there was a 1.8.4, what could be done to change things? Now, the reason that I think things need a little bit of tweaking is that so many people are upset about the game, and people always have been. Whether it is the discrepancy between the PvE and PvP communities, the competitive and the casual communities, you never know. I mean, all of these communities are always kind of at each other's throats, and that's kind of what makes the game need changing. And whether it is a PvE gear set or a casual gear set that gets nerfed, and then the next one is usually a PvP or competitive gear set that gets nerfed, I see that kind of going back and forth. Maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like that's how it always goes. And I think to change the cycle, you just need some minor changes, because the developers, they always try. I mean, they definitely are trying to fix the game when things are issues, but they either go too far, or what they fix has unintended consequences. And I think we see that in every patch. Now, there are obviously a couple of things right now that people are upset about, and I think the people that are primarily the most upset are the competitive PvP community players. And a lot of content creators, too, have stopped making videos, have gone away from the Division, have just kind of lost their enthusiasm with it. And I think that's because of the time to kill. The time to kill is much longer, the game is a little less high-octane, and it's more team-based and requiring long, drawn-out fights, which I don't mind the long, drawn-out fights. I don't mind the higher stamina or the a little bit higher time to kill. Do I wish it was a little lower, like 1.7? Kinda, yeah, it would be fun. But at the same time, this game is meant to kind of have a lot of overpowered gear sets that are all competing against each other, and I think that's what makes the game fun. But everybody wants a little bit of balancing to make the game even better, and I think there's a few things that could change to do that. Now, the three most powerful gear sets right now, in my opinion, and I think the meta kind of reflects it, are D3, Predator's Mark, and Nomad. Obviously, I think Banshee is on the cusp of being meta, but it's mostly just a super strong rogue hunting build. It definitely sees rogue play, but it's just not as prevalent as the other meta gear sets. And when you look at the meta, and we examine all three, you look at Predator's Mark first. Now, Predator's Mark used to be very overpowered, and it got counters. And I think that because it now has the counters, it really isn't broken or overpowered. There's ways to counter it, and you just have to adapt to it. Do I know it's difficult? Of course. And then, I mean, you saw Striker got nerfed, but if you were a Striker player and you miss it, you're probably a great player, and you're probably going to do fine with any other gear set that you use. So I wouldn't be upset that that's gone. I don't think it's coming back. And I think that we look at the other meta gear sets, Nomad and D3. I'll look at D3 first. D3 is really fun. I've used it a bunch. I've used it way back when in like 1.6, 1.7 days, and then I went to a Hexo back in the day. But D3 is a good build, and it has its intention to be a tank build, and it's a little bit... I mean, I know a lot of people really hate D3. It's very strong. It's very tough to fight. And I think the one issue with D3 is that it has a little bit too much firearms if you want to tweak that. I think that if they make it that you need 10k stam for maximum shield health, then they can unlock weapon talents for the primary weapon and it won't hit as hard. I think that that could make it a little bit better, because it is intended to be a tank build, and it does hit pretty hard for a tank build. I mean, I feel like I can destroy a lot of people with this build, but when you take the firearms and tone them down a bit and you make the stam go up a little bit, it becomes even more of a tank build, and that's its intention. It has a big shield in front of it, it has its movement speed slowed and low mobility. I think that its intention is made clear, and I think that it does fit that role. I think the only thing that really ever could possibly be argued for on D3 is that it might need a little bit firearms tweaking. Other than that, I think D3 is fine. You might disagree. I know a lot of people really hate D3, but guys, its intention is to be a tank build, and it's trying to do that. Third one is Nomad. Now, Nomad is by far the strongest solo build, and definitely one of the best general purpose builds right now, but it is also the build that is upsetting the most people. It has angered a ton of people, it has forced a lot of people to leave, and it has completely changed the game, and it's definitely the most controversial gear set right now. And I think that's due to two things. It has two issues that I think are just, if we're tweaked, would be perfect. Now, the things about Nomad, the two things that I think are really upsetting people are, the first one, when you're face tanking a Nomad, which I don't suggest to do, I think you got to be careful when doing that, but face tanking a Nomad, and then all of a sudden you think you're going to kill them, and then they proc and they kill you. Now, that's when you hear the majority of people go, "Ah, Nomad, I hate Nomad." And when that happens, that's kind of the reaction people have, because they don't feel like they deserve to die there, and it just came out of nowhere on them. So I think the way to fix that is to put a little proc above Nomad's head to tell people that it has another life. And it sounds a little weird to most people, I'm sure, but if you really think about it, every other gear set that has a proc like that shows you. Lone Star shows you, Striker shows you stacks, Final Measure shows you if it has a buff up, stamina buffs show up on D3. All of the buffs show up. And I think that knowledge is power in that right. And so if you can at least know if the Nomad you're fighting has a proc, you'll play it differently, adapt, and try to overcome that Nomad's extra life. The extra life really isn't the huge issue, it's just the idea that you have no idea if you're going to be killing this person or if they're going to have another life for you to get through. And I don't think that Nomad should be a, ooh, surprise, gotcha, I have another life gear set. I think that that extra life is just something you need to see. And so I think if they showed you that it had a proc, it would help clear up some issue. Second issue with Nomad is that it's a little bit game breaking in the way that it can rush up onto a bunch of players and rush through a funnel just because it knows it has another life, and it basically can throw caution to the wind and run straight at people. Now, it's not a tank gear set. It doesn't have a shield in front of it. It's not meant to be a tank build, but people are using it that way. And to fix that, now this might be a little bit extreme, but if you were to fix that, I would think that you have to do what Lone Star does, where Lone Star doesn't show you if it has a proc until halfway through the magazine. Now, if you were to take Nomad and not show them if they have a proc until they're halfway through their health bar, that would be kind of interesting, and it would definitely prevent them from rushing up recklessly. I don't know, maybe it's a little extreme, but it's just what I thought of as something to help cure both of those issues. Maybe I'm crazy, but the one that I really like is the idea of putting a proc above Nomad's head to tell you if they have extra lives. But to continue, the other thing I would do is to make things even, give Banshee that same thing, where if it has a damage proc or a resistance proc, put the icon above its head to tell people. That's just to even it out, because I think those are the only two gear sets that don't show right now. If there's another one, let me know in the comments. Last thing I would change is I would give rogues 99% speed. That means a 1% knock on their speed. That way, non-rogue players can catch them over a long run. It won't affect their normal close quarter combat, but over a long period of time, non-rogues will catch them. It'll allow non-rogues that are farmers to be able to run away without getting attacked and hounded by rogues. I think that it would help everyone, and as someone who's always rogue, I wouldn't really mind it. I prefer to stand and fight my manhunts off anyway, but if you were to clear, I'd rather see people fight for a while than tactically move to their point, killing people on the way, rather than just run away as fast as they can. But that's it for the video today, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and let me know what you think, if you agree, disagree. But either way, I'll catch you guys tomorrow.
Jesus Christ.